Hey, man, we're back. It's another season, season 7. Pawel, welcome. Where are you? You're in Vancouver, dude.
No, I am just in Osoyoos, BC, visiting some family. So unfortunately, I'm not with my regular setup. But welcome back, everyone. Welcome, Evan. It's been a crazy but quiet summer. How are things for you in your world?
Well, I feel like we just wrapped up our show, episode 42 last season. It's been a crazy summer, minus these last 4 weeks, but there has been lots happening. And so please, this year, don't say in another month that hockey is finally back, because hockey is back. Forget about training camps. Forget about NHL. We got it happening all over the KHL. We'll give you guys updates. We're going to go around the rink, junior leagues everywhere. But yeah, man, it's an excellent time. So we're jam-packed today. We didn't get on last week to start, so there'll be 41 episodes this year. But I'm really excited to bring to you our guest headliner tonight. So, Pawel, you have anything you want to say before we jump into this?
Open a bottle of yummy drink, beer for me here. You got
Okay,
one of your own?
Here we go. Okay, got it.
Cheers.
I'll go with the hard one.
Season 7. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, guys, we want to bring to you our guest headliner. Brought to you by JR Web Design. Is your website stuck in the Stone Age? Well, you need JR Web Designs. They'll craft you a website that's as awesome as our show. Well, guys, we want to welcome Max Miller. He is a beat reporter and creator over at Hockey Digest. He's a correspondent for them at NHL.com. Just found out some recent news that I didn't know you played university hockey. You worked with a whole bunch on the showcases. I've been following you for a while now, Max. Welcome to Two Guys in Hockey Talk, and thank you for giving us the time.
Yeah, of course, anytime. Glad to know somebody's reading my stuff.
Well, we appreciate you coming on the show. I know it's going to gear up for you soon here in the season, but we kind of wanted to get a little bit of insight from you about the San Jose Shark, but kind of behind the scenes. So we know that there's been an update on the SAP center lease, and you reported that there's been a deal made with the city of San Jose for the SAP center. It's a critical piece for the Sharks' future. It's where they play. It's where the fans gather. We want to see a Stanley Cup brought home with the young guns there. What's the latest update there that you can give us, and what does that mean for the city, the team, and in general the community?
Yeah, so for sure, it's a great question to start off with. Without a building, there's no team to play in it. So the biggest thing that you can talk about this situation, whether it's the Sharks, SAP Center, City of San Jose, is it all breaks down to this. The SAP Center is owned by the city of San Jose, and the Sharks are leasing it, the same as me leasing my apartment to a landlord. Same exact thing. So the difference is the relationship between the Sharks and the city of San Jose is better than arguably any other sports team they could have. When you look at the way that the city worked with the Sharks to find this deal, when you look at the way that the Sharks bring in revenue for the city, it was a mutual understanding that this needed to continue. It was a mutual understanding that the upgrades needed to happen because it is the oldest NHL building without a big renovation. If you guys remember, I don't know, like 10, 12 years, whatever it was, MSG and the Rangers played on the road to start. I mean, you look at Crypto.com Arena, Staples Center last year, the Kings started on the road for like the first month and a half because the building needed upgrades. That's what's going to happen here. The other part of this deal is going to keep the Sharks at minimum, at least in SAP Center for up until the next 25 years. So after the 2050-51 season. There's another part of this deal that came out in the summary is the two sides are going to look for a new place in San Jose for a new building because both sides agree that after that 2050-51 season, the SAP Center is not viable. So in order for that to happen and keep the team in San Jose, both sides are going to work together to find a new place, to find a new arena district, which we see all around the country in some of these new buildings. But it's all it means at the end of it. SAP Center is getting updated like crazy over the next 7 years, and the Sharks aren't leaving San Jose for a very long time. And if I cover the Sharks for that long, I'm stuck in San Jose for that long, and it's great. It's job security, you know.
Well, let's just hope that you get a few promotions along the way if that happens. So the Sharks landed Michael Meese at the draft, and it feels like the excitement had just been building and building ever since. Now, from your perspective, what is the general mood among the fan base right now? Is the anticipation for Misa through the roof? Has landing him helped heal any lingering disappointment they didn't get the first overall, and as a lot suspected, they might have taken Schaefer.
Yeah, the hype feels so weird after having Macklin Celebrini last year and all the excitement, and then having the year that he had, and then it almost feels like Macklin Celebrini still has more hype on him than Michael Misa. I think part of that is also because we don't really know where Michael Misa is going to play next season, and I think that is kind of putting a cap on the excitement to some extent, because last year, Celebrini played at BU, signs. So he signs. He's not going to play in the AHL if you're he's playing, and he signed right after development camp in July. So, I don't know, 2-3 weeks after the draft. Michael Misa signed today. And even today, he could have signed 2 months ago. We didn't know where he was going to play. So I think a lot of it is, I think a lot of fans have moved on from not picking Schaefer, or not being able to pick Schaefer, I should say. But the hype surrounding Sam Dickinson is up. I think the fans loved Hao-Shi Wang, Shikrimu Madulin, Luca Cagnoni. I mean, they've got all these defensemen. Yeah, they need more. But I think the draft that they had, the first round, you get Misa, the number 1 forward prospect, and Josh Ravensbergen, the number 1 goalie prospect. You knock that out of the draft, and you go with a bunch of project high ceiling type players in the draft. I think there's a general consensus. Okay, they're starting to build. We know what else they need. There's a vision here, but there's general excitement to see on ice what's going to happen and where the young kids in Dickinson and Misa are going to play.
Well, and so we know that, beyond Michael Misa, you have Celebrini coming into his second year, his sophomore year season coming in. You've got a lot of young players. You saw the excitement, and I would say I think most people who tuned in and most people that I talked to said San Jose Sharks hockey last year was fun. You see Celebrini and Will Smith just having a time of their life. What are fans expecting for this year? Of course, there's always the goal to make the postseason. The Pacific, for some could be seen as weak, but is there a possibility that they're looking towards a specific step that they want to take? What should fans expect when they're watching San Jose hockey this year?
Well, I think expectations kind of need to be, I don't want to say held off for now, but just given how the team has started the last few years on extended losing streaks, I personally don't want to put any expectations, at least from how I view the team and how I view they're going to do, until they start playing hockey, because, they looked better last year. But did they really win more? They won game, sure. It's going to be interesting to see what happens at the start of the year. I think fans just want to see competitive games later in the season. I think the third period losses were there, yes. The growth of the young players, we'll see that there, but I think just being competitive games later in the year. When you led up to 4 nations, there was another losing streak last season, and it just kind of was like, all right, now it's trade deadline. All right, let's get to the end of the year. And it was fun a little bit at the end of the year, but we want to see more. We want to see all of the Sharks play in more meaningful games. Do I think they'll push for a playoff spot? Probably not, but you never know. But if they're, 10 points out with 10, 15 games to go, that's a pretty big improvement in my mind. You'd want to be closer. I think if the Sharks had it their way, they'd want to sneak into a wild card spot and get some playoff experience for these young kids. But I just don't think that's going to happen this year. Next year, we'll see what happens, but not this upcoming year.
So if people want, so you actually, and we have it listed down below for you guys, you can go read. You just put out your article on him signing his elite level contract. So folks can kind of go read a little bit more about it with Misa. Now, my question is him signing this entry-level contract, especially in the midst of all this NCAA stuff that's going on and players not signing. Porter Martone didn't end up. A lot of people thought he might actually have a chance to potentially maybe. I didn't think he could, but there was a lot of people that thought he could. But the moment he signed at the NCAA, he's not signing an ELC.
Right.
So how important is that, you think, for San Jose and their fans to see that commitment coming from him? And so how important is it to the organization? How important do you think it is to the fans to see that kind of commitment?
Yeah, I don't know if signing the deal means much towards the commitment to the team. If Macklin Celebrini went back to college for his sophomore year, he would have signed this summer and played this summer as his rookie year. The commitment to me, in my mind, is not, signing the contract doesn't mean he's not committed to the team. I just think what fans want to see is, are the Sharks working with him to put him in the best position to be developed properly and the most effective way? And in order to do that, they feel either keeping him closer to the organization and staying in the NHL this season or sending him back to Saginaw for another year are the two best scenarios. I don't think in talking with Michael today and in talking with some of his representation that, I've had conversations with, doesn't sound like at all NCAA was even on the table, despite his brother Luke playing at Penn State with Gavin McKenna. Misa has done a whole bunch at the junior level, and in order for him to develop, putting him in probably the NHL might be the best. AHL would be perfect, but we know the rules. But in order for that to happen, I think the Sharks just want to have him under control. I think as the number 2 pick and then one forward in the draft, I think he's going to get the opportunity to play in the NHL. I could see him playing 9 games and going back to junior. I could see him playing the entire year in the NHL. If anything, I could see him playing 3 games in the NHL and be like, all right, look, you're clearly not ready. Let's send you back. I mean, they play Vegas, a big, heavy team with very good players who has Mitch Marner now and arguably the biggest and physical defense in the NHL. You want to throw Will Smith, Macklin Celebrini, Michael Misa all in the same lineup against that team. Yeah, Smith and Celebrini are going to be more prepared. But Misa's first game against that is going to be tough. So I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the team and scratched for maybe the first 2 games. And then they give him that. Just kind of picking their time to use him. They don't want to get him tired out, right? They don't want, like, they put Smith on a game, on a plan, like Leo Carlson. Could see that from Misa as well.
And you do. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, just Pawel, I just wanted to, because I got it up there on the screen for your Max. So Zylstra Arts, also known as the Lost Trucker, trucks all over North America. So she's asking, she gets to a lot of the arenas, whether AHL, ECHL, NHL. How close is it to park a big rig close to the SAP Center?
I mean, I don't know the rules in terms of how many axles or weight ton or weight limits that you can get, but I'm sure there's a way to get to San Jose, get to downtown San Jose, park that big rig somewhere, and it's pretty easy to get downtown, whether it's bus, scooter, walking. It's a pretty easy spot to get to. So SAP Center would be fun. So if you get down there, it's a great building, and we know, I mean, from all those playoff years, we know how fun it is and how loud it is in that building.
For sure. And what I was going to get at is never in my lifetime would I imagine that Carey Price would wear teal. But here we are in the trade. So could you quickly run through the trade that happened with the Montreal Canadiens, kind of the impact of this? What does this mean for the Sharks? Because a lot of people online that I saw chatter on X were saying that the return should have been a little bit more than a 5th-round pick, if I recall, for San Jose. So your thoughts on what happened there and what was the reasoning?
Look, we know Price isn't going to play for the Sharks a 5th round. I mean, how much can you get? It's not like you're trading for MVP 2014 Carey Price. Like, you're trading for a guy who is in town today, taking a physical and going to fail it and go back to Montreal. Like, the Sharks, yeah, people are saying, well, they were $5 million over the cap. Okay, well, if I trade Klingberg, Skinner, Kurashev, all those guys, well, now I'm $15 million under the cap floor. So adding $10.5 million to the cap floor by adding Carey Price just gives more flexibility. Because they gave up Gannon Larocque, the prospect, who I don't believe was going to be part of the organization, and following his deal. He's just dealt with injuries. It's just he's not as far along as they want. So maybe the organization in Montreal sees a little bit more in him than the Sharks did, especially after the injuries. I mean, he's a really good kid, and I hope the best for him, and I hope he gets over these injury issues. But look, the Sharks now, even with Misa signed now, they're at 50 contracts. Like, if Muskie, Misa, Dickinson all play more than 9 games, 3 players need to come off the books. So I thought they were going to do a couple more moves before signing Misa, and they still could. But I think what's going to really happen is they have the cap floor. They can waive whoever they need to waive at training camp. I think they're going to expect some people to get claimed or make some more moves if players get hurt at training camp all the time. So the deal for Price wasn't necessarily player oriented. It's strictly paper cash. Like, instead of being $5 million above that salary cap floor, you're 15. You can trade $10 million worth of players, which you have in Jeff Skinner and John Klingberg. You need that flexibility if you're going to get the most, because unless the Sharks surprise us, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. You want to retain assets for guys who are going to be UFAs. And the Sharks have one defenseman signed past this season, and that's Dmitry Orlov, who signed for 2 years. Everybody else is a UFA or RFA at the end of this year.
I just think people aren't ready for the Price-Askarov duo, and that's what's going to help him get to the postseason.
If Price is around, which he was today, if he sticks around, and you have Nedeljkovic and Askarov, and you have Price around, not a bad guy to pick a brain for. I don't know if he will be. I mean, everything we see online and how Price carries himself, he seems like a great dude. I don't think, his family's in Montreal. If he can be around the team in any way a little bit, I mean, that's the same thing as Couture staying around the team last year. But from a goalie perspective, you have Nabokov, you have Thomas Spear, who is, in my opinion, one of the top 5 goalie coaches in the league, and he's shown that. Rekindling Blackwood, rekindling Vanacek, rekindling a whole bunch of the other guys. Struggled a little bit with Georgiev, making Devin Cooley an all-star goalie. You add Carey Price into the wealth of Ryan Miller's a scout. The Sharks got some great knowledge at goalkeeper coaches.
Jordan says it's only for one season, super low risk all around. So it sounds like what and a lot of people have said this, the idea is, unless something goes through the roof for them and they perform better than they thought, essentially they're going to unload some of those higher contracts, use them for trade, pick up some more draft capital or something along the way. And that's why they need to get to that cap floor if they drop a lot.
Right, and it's for 1 year. Like, even if the Sharks are like 2 points out of the wild card spot, and you hit March 6th, I still think Klingberg and Skinner are very strong candidates to be traded. They're not part of the long-term future. If they're having great years, you use them as assets to acquire more first-round picks, which we've seen Mike Grier flip to Yaroslav Askarov. We've seen them flip from 14 to 11 to draft Sam Dickinson. He's used first-round picks to acquire he traded Timo Meier to get picks, which then turned into Quentin Must. He's moved things around with first-round picks. It's not, first-round picks because the Sharks are rebuilding. Now he's at the point of, if he acquires first-round picks, he's using them to, be able to pay for high-quality prospects or better draft positions if he sees a prospect that he really likes.
Awesome. Well, I know Evan wanted to ask one more question before we finish off the show, but I did want to ask because there was some recent movement which raised some eyebrows in the hockey world, and that was Ryan Cloud stepped away as the assistant general manager, and he headed over to New York for the Rangers quickly. I think it was a couple days, 2 to 3 days, and they announced him in the organization. He kind of just gave a thoughtful response about stepping away from the organization. But do you know anything what's been going on about that, and kind of if you can allude to any kind of insight as to his departure from the San Jose organization?
Yeah, within 24 hours, Ryan Clough, longtime player for the Sharks, my dad's favorite player as I was growing up. He loved his backhand shootout move. He just loved watching Ryan Clough play. Ironically, it's not the first time he's gone from the Sharks to the Rangers. In 2013, he was traded to the Rangers, hadn't scored a goal all year, and in his first game, scored 2 goals and had an assist. And I know that because he was my dad's favorite player who was just traded. And that game was on NBC, and I know that because it just came through my Instagram feed the day that news came out. So it's fresh in my head, though, seeing those 2 goals of the year and seeing what happened there. But look, Ryan Clough was traded. He was a Shark, and he was traded to the Rangers. He played there, and then he played in the Devils, and he had concussion issues. Then he was a coach for the Devils. Then he was in the front office of the Rangers as a consultant. Then he came back to the Sharks after Mike Grier left the Rangers to become the Sharks GM. And now he's going back to the Rangers. I have no idea what family thing he said in that statement, what that family thing is. My best guess, and I want to emphasize this is a guess, he spent the majority of his 30s in New York in that area. If his family, if his kids grew up there and are set up there, and they then moved everything for a year, it's the same role. Maybe he's got more opportunity at the Rangers to become their GM, and maybe Drury's going to step up to a president thing. I don't know that either. But my best guess is he spent so much time in that New York metropolitan area. If his family was more comfortable there and set up there, I think maybe they got homesick, and he wanted to do what's best for his family. And the Rangers already had him in in their organization as a front office member. I mean, he and Grier were consultants there before both coming to San Jose, obviously at different times. But that's my best guess. The organization it doesn't look like there's any ill will or bad feelings towards Ryan Clough. I think he's a well-loved player. And hey, if it's for more opportunity and for family aspects, you can't say no to that. Let the guy go try and chase his second career in hockey.
Yeah, Ray indicates, which gave me a bit of a chuckle, Ryan Clough, the Devils' biggest mistake. And Ray is a big New Jersey Devils fan, so.
I think they got more mistakes coming, right? They're going to try and trade for Quinn Hughes. Maybe they'll trade Jack Hughes for him. Oh, wait, no, they're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, they're not even supposed to tamper with that, right?
I don't know what tampering they're talking about.
What happened to all these rules? So, okay, just before we came on, last question. We have 3 minutes left. the rookie showcase. There's a lot of people who are, people like myself, we've been wanting to, the regular showcase, maybe explain the history like you did. If you can wrap it up in 3 minutes, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot to tie in. And can people watch any games this year? And where could they watch it if they could?
Yeah, for sure. So I work for a company called Black Dog Hockey. They help produce it. So you won't see any of their logos. We help the streams. To my knowledge, this year, at least for the Golden State Rookie Faceoff for the Kings, Sharks, and Ducks, there won't be any geolocation locking. So you just need to go onto the team's website. So for the Sharks, it would be sjsharks.com. I think that's what it is. And the streams will be there. They're all free. They're easy to go. We see the landscape of rookie tournaments changing, whether it's Traverse City, which is no more, the Rookie Face-Off, which was 7 teams last year in LA, or in Henderson the year before that, which was 6. So look, it's changing around. It's a money thing. It's also, how many prospects can you get in? The Sharks have a smaller camp this year. Like I said, it's free to watch. They're going to bring broadcasts. They're fun games. You get to see top prospects. The Sharks are bringing an absolutely loaded group. And I think they're going to dominate both the games that they play. They have Colin Graff on the roster who's played 40 NHL games. They're going to dominate this thing with Misa and Graff and all the rest of the guys. But yeah, I think it's, how much are these guys really getting out of it? It's a lot of skating. A lot of these players are going to take place in camp within a week. This is kind of the start of it. Get a closer look, get them in the mojo, get them started. They're not going to be in camp as long as some of the other guys. Give them a shot to go skate, get them in a game. This is your chance for front offices to see guys who may not get into a preseason game in a game scenario.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you taking the time for being on the show. Remember, you guys, you can go follow Max Miller. He's a San Jose beat writer and creator of Sharks Hockey Digest. You can check out all his work online. It's incredible. Max, is there anywhere you want people to follow you, check you out, link up with you if they want to connect with you?
For sure, yeah. You got the email at the bottom. Feel free to shoot me an email. Keep them nice, please. I promise. I'll be nice back. But Twitter, I should. You guys got your Twitters up there, or X, whatever it is. It's just at real Max Miller with underscores between real and Max. It's real _Max_Miller. My friends give me crap for it all the time. But as you see on the bottom, sharkshockeydigest.com, Sharks HKY Digest. That's the Twitter for me. Just anything you see there, and NHL.com for the Sharks. You'll see it flow through there. But any readers I'd love, and any feedback I'll take.
That's great.
That's
and
awesome.
before Evan finishes, we just want to quickly ask, any thoughts on the upcoming season? Any predictions? Any things that you're looking forward to seeing? Anything that you think is going to kind of stand out?
Where will Kirill Kaprizov sign next summer? New York Rangers. Book it. That's it. I'm not even thinking about the season. I'm thinking about next offseason.
Okay, so Panarin's gone then. Panarin's gone.
There you go.
You replace Panarin with Kaprizov. They've got the same agent. I looked it up today.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that with your mic drop. Guys, that's Max Miller, our guest headliner of the night. Thanks, man.
Guest headliner.
Brought to you by JR Web Design. Is your website stuck in the Stone Age? Well, you need JR Web Designs. They'll craft you a website that's as awesome as our show. Yeah, I like that, which is going to actually take us shortly. We're going to get into contract negotiations around that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on the show, Max. We appreciate your insight. We'd love to have you back, and we wish you all the best this coming season with all the projects you're working on, because you seem like you have a busy schedule. Yeah, Evan, let's get into it, because we've been off for quite a few months. Lots is going on. I feel like we should be working 24/7 with the amount of information that's happening.
Yeah, we've been gone 8 weeks, dude. You said lots of months, but it's only been 8 weeks. That was our 8-week off.
That's a lot. That's a lot for me. Maybe it just feels like forever. But
let me guide this through, since you're lost in Osoyoos. By the way, I lived in Osoyoos as a kid, so I know all about it there. And usually it's pretty good at this time of year still. What temperature are you today, Celsius?
it's pretty warm today. I think it's around 28, 29 degrees. So we were able to check out the water today and go splashing a little bit and jump in. So it's definitely feeling good here. But I think people are ready for the water to freeze up and get some ice going. So where do you got for?
Okay, we have lots of guys. We have so much to cover. So there will be some things we're going to update you. We're going to give you some news and some information. So not everything is going to be a discussion. Feel free to write some comments. We're going to try to hit in on that next week. We do not have a guest purposely planned, but I do want to let you guys know over these next couple weeks, we are excited. We do have 2 potential new sponsors. I'm still working on it's hard at this time of year when everything's into full flow. I should have done this 2 months ago. But we have Josh Bartek, and if I said that wrong, I'll correct it next week for him. So he is a broadcaster. So he does a lot of the work with the Penn State University, home of Gavin McKenna. So we're going to be bringing him on in just a couple weeks. So he will be our next guest coming on. He does the broadcasting. He talks on the post and pregame shows, as well as he just got a recent promotion to the ECHL Wheelers. Do some work with them as well. And we have from Puckpedia, our own Puckpedia, Hart Levine is going to be back. So we're going to talk about Evander Kane because I'm gonna look for the highlight, Pawel, because we had a short discussion last year around the same time with Hart about Evander Kane. Wait till the end of the year when he goes on. Then the NHL will shut down the LTIR, which we're going to get into in a bit. And lo and behold, they're shutting down the LTIR as it has been known. So let's start it off here. I might have to push us through some different pieces. Let's start it off here with Mitch Marner, man. We don't have a lot of talk to go back and forth. We will have more in the weeks ahead, guys. I want to get Pawel's initial take on what he thinks. There's two things, Pawel, I just want you to comment on. Number one, what's your thoughts that he actually signed with Vegas, of all teams? And then the second part is, a lot of people are doubting the reality of what he is saying is one of his biggest reasons for leaving. So go ahead and shoot us your thoughts on both those things.
So quickly, I mean, I understand why he goes to Vegas. They probably made a good pitch for him. He kind of talked about it with some of the players at the Four Nations of players who played in Vegas, even though it wasn't held in Vegas. And I think he got a taste for the life there. He clearly talked to players around the league because players talk. They say, hey, we love it here. We don't like it here. You could say that pro or con for any city. And I think it kind of settled him on a man who's a new father. And as a father myself of two boys, I can understand that, you want a life that's not as chaotic and hectic. I was intrigued to see his interview with Mark Masters with what he kind of said, because oftentimes these are kind of things that come out when you're done your career and you have a biography that comes out and you share your stories. So I'm not disputing the things that happened to him. And I think there is a sect of the fan base in not just hockey, but in Toronto that may be a little bit too chaotic, but that's not everyone. I think people really wanted him to succeed in Toronto. I think the pressure was a lot, although, you can make a case for other teams and other Canadian markets and the pressure there expected there, even just as close as Edmonton and or Vancouver. Right. And so I wish him all the best in his new future. He has to perform because all the other guys that are getting paid big bucks in Vegas, they've performed. Jack Eichel is a Stanley Cup champion. He's won. You've got the big guys doing it. So now he has to come in and make that impact. But I really believe that he needed a fresh start. Vegas seemed to be a competitive team. It's in the West. He may not have to be the guy, but you have to be one of the guys to perform on the ice when he's playing for Vegas. So that's kind of what I see it as. But I think with any Canadian market, there's a high risk, high reward kind of situation where if you are, and he indicated this himself a few years ago, where he's seen as a god, right? Like if you succeed in the market and you perform, you could be an elite athlete and people will worship you. People will love you and idolize you. And so I think that's where where is that narrative? Where is that line of how do you cross it? How do you balance it? And it seems to be okay for elite players like Austin Matthews and William Nylander, but I really think that Marner really just struggled, and maybe the spotlight was a little bit too much for him, rightly or wrongfully. So that's my only thoughts. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I mostly wanted to hear your thoughts on it. No one really wants to hear mine. I've been pretty vocal along the way. I think, and I talked about it at the end of last season, people are wrong. Mitch Marner was not the reason and the problems in Toronto. He was the highest point per game player in the playoffs. They said he didn't score goals. Well, he didn't score goals in the season. It was supposed to be Austin Matthews. So he was still producing at a higher rate. It was actually the rest of the team that was struggling. So we'll get to that, and we'll talk a little bit about Toronto a little bit later on. But I'm excited to see him line up alongside Jack Eichel, and let's see what he can do. I know during the Four Nations he was lined up with McDavid. Some people didn't like the combination, but that was the winning goal that actually was got out from the corner by Marner.
Vancouver was blending the lines, yeah.
And I don't feel like they're a match, but I feel Eichel has speed, plus He's like Draisaitl. He can slow the game down or speed it up.
He's also a good playmaker too. Even though he can score, he's a great playmaker. So when you have two playmakers right there, you can definitely make that impact. So we'll see how Vegas does, because there's going to be a lot of pressure. Here's my one critique, Evan. I'll quickly shout out before we move on. Is the NHL is terrible at marketing. You put a game of Vegas versus Toronto in January.
I know.
This is a great way to promote the game, the hate, the bitterness, the rivalry, right? But they do this because of the fact that they shuffle it sometime later on. And it's like, come on, you can build up the game. You can build up the animosity, a healthy animosity between these teams, between the fan bases, and make Marner the spotlight, him against his former teammates. What's the story going to be? Make it a Saturday night game. Why not? No, they throw it away. I think it's a Wednesday or Thursday night game. Like, come on.
Let me throw a hot take out there. I think that Marner will score the most goals of his career in an NHL season multiple times playing with Vegas Golden Knights and the team that they have there.
For all you fantasy folks, there you go. Pick up Marner if you can.
So, okay. Well, let's move over. We're not going to take a lot of talk. I'm not going to be posting any comments if anyone writes comments during this piece. I just do want to give some quick news. This isn't anything really to follow up. This is just giving information. Most of you know about it. And I'm specifically because he's really the best player of them all out of the group that was charged with basically sexual harassment, sexual abuse in the 5 players for Team Canada debate that happened. And it happened in 2018. They just finalized stuff. So after being acquitted of the charges in this high-profile case, everyone, Carter Hart now is probably the most at the center of attention of a different kind of dispute. The NHL has still ruled all the players ineligible to play while it conducts its own review, whatever that means. Now, the NHLPA, who reps them, is challenging that under the CBA, and they do have a right because he's been proven innocent. However, it's created a tense standoff, and while his on-ice future is in limbo, there are up to a dozen teams or more that are ready to prepare to offer a contract. I doubt it would be high, and that's only if they win. But let's remember, none of them may ever come back to the NHL still, because the NHL is allowed as a private enterprise to say if something does not represent them, regardless, they put themselves in a bad position, say they did nothing and you believe the acquittal, it still means that legally they put themselves in a situation that is not ethical to the NHL. So they still can do that. I think it's important for us all to know that, but we definitely will. I don't know if you wanted to top anything different on that in there, Bell, but.
No, all that I would mention is that Alex Formenton got a quick career, 1-year contract, I believe, with Swiss club. So he is going to go back to playing. I think he was doing constructions prior to this. Until the NHLPA and NHL make a decision exactly about anything, regardless of the future, there's not much more to say. We know the court results. We've talked about this ad nauseum. So really, we can move on because there's some other pressing matters that's happening in the NHL that I want to get to.
Okay, so let's get to the contract stuff. And then from there, we're going to jump for a moment. We won't get into – we'll come at the end. Let's talk about the new collective bargaining and stuff near the end before hockey history. So maybe about 10-2 or something. But let's get into the contract negotiations. So let's cover Connor McDavid. Let's start there. That's the big one. He just said it, Kaprizov. And then Eichel. Those are the big ones. And then there's this hanging RFA. What are they going to do with Lane Hudson in Montreal? So why don't we start with Connor McDavid?
All right. Well, so it sounds like Connor McDavid knows what he wants to do, but he hasn't shared it unless it's his closest advisors, families, and friends. And there's no contract on the table right now. There was a lot of speculation at the end of last season, at the beginning of summer, that something would get done prior to start of camp. It hasn't happened. There's been speculations, things thrown at the wall. He's done a few interviews already. But I really believe that a contract myself, I think, will be done. But I think it's 2 to 3 years, no more than 4, between 16 to 17.5 million is what I'm calling, because he wants to see if Edmonton can be competitive. And as Elliot Friedman reported, he's more hungrier than ever and more determined than ever to prove everyone wrong because he wants the cup. That's what he's working towards. That's his life goal, ambition. And he's come up short twice now, back to back. And so you think to yourself, does he believe that Edmonton has the best chance to win with him? Possibly. But if every other team believes that they can have a chance at getting Connor McDavid, you make sure you prepare next year for the books, which is why this year will be interesting because you can potentially get Connor McDavid or you can get Gavin McKenna, Evan. That's how intense this year is going to be. So are we going to see a lot of movement or it's going to be a lot of kind of status quo? And I believe that the NHLPA is pushing for him to get the max, which I believe is called around 19.2 million of the cap. But the problem is even if he takes that much, does he have enough? And does the Oilers organization have enough to be competitive and build the team around him? Now they got younger with Savoy and with Howard. Is that enough? And again, he will set the precedent because he is currently, and whatever people may say and disagree or not agree, next to Sidney Crosby, he is the best player in the game. So he deserves to be paid, and he should be compensated for what he produces on the ice.
Okay. So a couple things around this. It has been blown out of proportion. Until the only statement that he has made at any time is recently when he said, or no term. The no term only is the only thing anyone should have ever run off of. All the other stuff is pure speculation that, to me, a lot of the guys that are in the know, the insiders, they're speculating. They have no clue. They know nothing. Most of the people that are closer to him and around him have said he's just taking his time. He never had planned before camp that he was going to get anything done. There was a lot of time going into it because that's how he plays his career. So just having said that, so I know a lot of people have said, okay, 4 years, 3 to 4 years, 16 million. 16 million puts him in fairly low on the cap because it is 19.1 on the current cap this year. Here's the difference. I trust where I've heard this. It's only from one place, but I do trust this. I have heard they did entertain the possibility and considered an 8-year. Let me explain why. You guys don't get this, and we're going to get this later. The contract deferrals. You cannot get bonuses of almost everything outside of your $1 million at the beginning of the year, regardless of your career, regardless if you blow it, regardless if you get traded. You can get paid your whole contract, which is what he did on the last one. He got almost everything, so like 11 million or whatever, and the rest was paid out in the regular contract year. But he got it at the beginning on July 1st. If you do that, this is the last year to sign an 8-year contract. He would have to come in to do that at 19.1. 19.1, though, puts him in real cap trouble to be able to do anything because that's like literally a whole top quality player you're going to miss out from, say, from your estimate of, say, top end 17. So another 2.1 million onto a player that gets, say, 2 or 3. That's a good player that you got there. And maybe that's a goalie. Maybe it's a top end winger. Who knows what that is? Yeah. So his thing is trying to figure out why. NHLPA, I agree, there's pressure. In fact, I think this is a ploy right now with Kaprizov with the NHLPA as well. I think it's pushing McDavid on this whole matter because if he's saying he's not going to accept 16, which just came in, I mean, that was the rumor, or 16.5 or maybe 17. I think it was 16.5 is what they've been kind of considering, but the 8-year was being considered. So I wouldn't even throw that. It wouldn't be a surprise if it happened. I only give it like a 5% chance. But let's face it, 8 years, you get hurt in 2 years, 3 years, he could be out of contract if he never recovers to be the player that he could have been. And that's why Draisaitl had no problem. But again, Draisaitl didn't know the certainty of the 3 years. But in 3 years, if the cap's at 113, he's only going to be able to sign at 23. So say he takes 17 now, what he misses of the 19, say if he took that now. Frankly, if I was Connor, I'd take the 19.1 if that's my plan to stay. I don't think he's trying to leverage anything against the Oilers. I don't think he's thinking about the future in that manner. I just don't understand how he thinks it's not a distraction. That's my only thing. This is a distraction. It's got the town talking, everybody over, speculation. And I heard him say, well, we're hockey players. Connor, you're on your own, dude. You're very unique. You can do what you want. This has nothing to do with the team negotiation. So this could have been done a long time ago, but he deserves it. He's the best player in the game, so I get it. But speaking of that, okay, whatever's going to fly, your prediction, what ends up happening? Let's just do a wild prediction. What do you think happens and how soon?
Or with Connor McDavid, I think he'll sign by most likely October, and it'll be like a 2 to 4 year contract between 16 to 17.5 million. And I'm only calling that because he has a similar agent, I believe, or I think it's the same agent. I could be wrong. You guys can correct me, as Austin Matthews. And what did Austin Matthews do? He signed a 4 year deal, and they're buddies. They hang out together. They hang out together. They play together. You know, they respect one another. They're both captains of their respective franchises. And I think they talk. And I think Austin Matthews, again, similar situation where, you know, he's like, I want to get paid. And he's going to end up being, 31, 32 when he's up at his next contract. And he's going to be able to re-sign for another big amount. And I think that's what Connor McDavid wants. I mean, you do want to get paid. You do want to be able to have something at the end of the day to protect your family and provide for them. But I think this mountain of a molehill that he won't sign in Edmonton is silly. I think he will. The problem is I don't know what the term, but it was interesting to hear him say no term, because I was like, oh, what does that mean? You know what I mean? But
I think he's just playing with them now, man. I just think he's playing with them. So, okay, I'm going to say he's going to give them 4 years because Bouchard signed on for a 3, right? So I'm going to say 4 because they're not going to want to overlap on that same year. And I think he's going to come in at 17. So I'm going to say 4 at 17 is what he's going to sign. And it's going to be for the purpose of trying to field a competitive team. Plus, it does put pressure on the team to keep performing because there was some issues, and we can get into that at another time around Derek Ryan, some treatment of the new management and stuff, which he's still trying to figure out. Let's go to Kaprizov and Max Miller. So maybe update people that we didn't catch it earlier. What did Max Miller say? And then let's talk about his contract.
We talked about the contract that Kirill Kaprizov was offered, and that allegedly earlier today it was noted that he was offered an 8-year, $60 million, so the highest paid player ever, so more than McDavid makes, more than Draisaitl, Austin Matthews, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby. Although more recently, I think the reports have come out in the last hour from Bill Guerin said that it hasn't come from his side or Kirill Kaprizov and his agent's side. So who knows what is being said. I know Frank Saravelli was reporting that there would be a deal done quicker and sooner rather than later because they want to lock up the star winger. But I think really we're looking at something that is unprecedented. The Minnesota Wild can afford it. They're not in cap hell anymore after that buyout that they had to deal with. And they believe in Kaprizov. They think he's elite. And they want to build a team around him to be successful to win the Stanley Cup.
Okay, so you guys just saw so Zill's 16, not 16.
Well, 126 million, I think it was, wasn't it?
What's that? Sorry, what
For the total 8 by 16.
Oh yeah, I didn't know what it came out to be. It was 7 years at
128 million.
$128 million. Yeah, that's what it was. And I know Zill commented over here that she thinks the fight's over the term, not the AAV. So what I've heard, and I believe this came from Jesse Pierce with the Bar Down Beauties, Zill. I believe he wants term. He wants the security. And right now he can get those deferral payments and all those things ahead of time. The guaranteed bonuses. Remember, he's had some injuries. So in his case, that would be a really good call for him to be able to do.
Of course.
So that was one of the things on that. Yeah, there you go. Jordan's got it at 128. So, so that one's interesting. So now let's go to Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel, man, our time's moving quick here. Jack Eichel. We'll finish with Jack Eichel, and we'll just leave it at that. We'll talk about Lane Hudson later on. Maybe he'll have a contract by next week. But Jack Eichel. So I'm hearing some people are putting it in at a 7-year. $13 million per year. Now, I don't know why you wouldn't take advantage if you're doing long term. Why don't you just do 8 right now?
Yeah,
all their ages are kind of around that same time. I'm taking the max if I can get it, or I'm not signing as long. And I do want to mention, Jordan, you corrected me. It is Bouchard signed a 4-year, so I'm going to change. I'm thinking they don't want McDavid and Bouchard in the same year, so I think He signs a 3-year, $17 million deal then.
Okay.
Jordan has something here. Are any of the 20-year-old players also on the no movement clause, so it makes it harder for the team to also move the player down the road? Yeah, so the team may not want an 8-year. Okay.
Well, and before we get into Eichel, I mean, we didn't mention, but I did write it in my article, so you guys can go check out our website at twoguysinhockeytalk.com. The CBA has changed where now there are more restrictions for the next playoff season, postseason, for your cap compliancy as a team, where you can't go over the cap as much as you want to due to the pushback by some GMs within the league. So they agreed to this, it will take place, and there will be some teams that may have to work around it, including what's been going on with the double retention for trades. So we may see less movement this year. We don't need it, but GMs will get clever.
Yeah, it's going to be different. So guys, we're going to come back to you. We got about 4 or 5 minutes we want to cover with some stuff from around the rink here. So we're going to move over to our around the rink session here. All right, guys, let's go to around the rink.
All right, around the rink, we're going to get into the KHL season, which has now begun over out in Russia. And I've been watching some of the highlights. It's been pretty fun on Twitter/X. It's the 20
fights, by the way. I'm telling you, they have got the most fights I've seen to start a season. I've already saw 5 fights.
Yeah, they're really getting into it. And we know that there's been some head coaches that were formerly in the NHL that are now over there, including Gerard Gallant of the new Shanghai Dragons. And they had a great teaser video, jersey unveiling, a really cool looking thing. It had sounded like Lokomotiv recently defeated the Tractor Chelyabinsk by 3-1 in the opener. They have a new head coach and Stanley Cup winner, Roman Lyubimov, right? I believe it is how you pronounce it. Evan, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
We're good.
And, it was a rematch of last year's Gargarian final, which, again, why doesn't the NHL do a rematch with, the previous 2 years? Like, again, the marketing is all over the place. But, there's been some KHL debuts, including Bob Hartley, who has won there before with Nail Yakupov, if people recall. He took over the Lokomotiv Yaroslav, while former Florida Panther George Gallant is making his KHL debut. It's been fun. And, of course, Josh Levo was recently suspended for 2 games. It was essentially for his failure to attend the 2024-2025 award ceremony, and the league denied his appeal. So,
yeah, and supposedly he had things happening with his family, he told them. So that's a KHL. This is not the NHL that you're talking about, right? When you're dealing with that. So, guys, a couple things around some of the stuff in non-NHL hockey. So, Major Junior has gone through some rule changes. The OHL has some significant rule changes for this upcoming season. So that's going to be new protocols for slew footing. So they're going to be having a 4-minute double minor penalty for that. There'll be changes to their face-off violation rules. I don't know why. I hadn't heard anything on that. And some new safety measures for players that are sitting on the boards during play. Think of it. They're younger, right? And they're also implementing some enhanced video technology for reviewing this year. So that's in Major Junior in the Canadian Hockey League, but specifically in the OHL. So I'm not sure. I haven't got any news. I've been trying to get information if the other 2 leagues will follow suit. And then a couple things just around. I'll bring up some other things later on. In the AHL, so their season is announced. Their home openers begin October 10th. So we're like 1 month away from these guys kicking it off in the A. That's just so you guys know that aren't familiar. AHL is the farm teams for the NHL teams. So they're going to be, so the Abbotsford Canucks, congratulations. They won the Calder Cup down in the AHL. So they're going to be kicking off on October 24th. Now, there is a new AHL rule for CHL prospects. They are on the verge of some groundbreaking rule changes that could allow each NHL team to allow one 19-year-old CHL player in the AHL per season, because that's the only group that can't have a 19, is if they're in the CHL, one of the 3 leagues. It would be massive to the rule changes, but they're currently going through it. Right now, you have to go back to junior hockey. There was some belief that it would start this year. It is not starting this year. So that would mean, guys like Carter George and Liam Greentree, they would actually help accelerate their growth in that case. And this is really cool. Remember, I brought this up last year in university. I don't have the list. I'm going to give this to you in a few weeks. And we'll talk to Josh from Penn State University in just 2 weeks. When we talk about Gavin McKenna and all the guys playing out there. And so Rice University, they are coming back into hockey. So 1933 to 41, the Rice University had a hockey team, and now they're called the Owls. They're going to begin play this year. Now, here's a couple things, okay? I also want to give you interesting NCAA D1 numbers. Now, I got this from Daryl Wolski with his 2112 hockey agency. He went and he tweeted out right now, players that are 17, very few are actually able to play. So Gavin McKenna is one of them right now currently because he's already completed his high school. 17 to 20-year-olds in the NCAA Div 1 from Western Canadian, that are Western Canadian, Tier 1 and Tier 2 junior. BCHL has 129 players there. WHL has 76. Manitoba Junior has 5. The AJ in Alberta has 4, and Saskatchewan has 1. So that's going to be interesting. And then also around the BCHL, a couple things. I'll share more a little bit later. But last year, I talked to you guys at the Spruce Grove Saints. They have a new arena. I'm looking forward to Thompson Family Arena. I'm going to go check it out September 19th against the Brooks Bandits. And speaking of the Brooks Bandits, I took a lot, and you probably, I don't know if because you follow stuff, I took a lot of heat for announcing their Dakota Mason, who was an assistant coach. I took a lot of heat for actually telling people he is the next head coach. I announced that on August 15th, and all these people are after me and freaking out. No, you don't know that. You're listening to someone else. August 25th, he was announced as the new head coach. Actually, there was things in place. He was just figuring it out with his family, but it was pretty much a done do. And formally, now I can't even say the coach that was with Brooks, great coach. He's now with the Wheelers in the ECHL with the Penguins franchise. I'm gonna slaughter this just like I always do, but it's Papia no. So it's totally a wrong name. But his name is Ryan. I call him Ryan Papp. That's how I refer to him. But he was an incredible coach, but he's now moved up. So congratulations to him. I have some other news around the NHL stuff that I'm going to bring it to you guys next week because we quickly want to just take 3 minutes, cover some collective bargaining, and then hit our hockey history before we wrap up. So, guys, that is it for Around the Ring. Okay, let's go over some to help people out. The news with the new CBA and kind of what's. Do you got your information there ready to go?
I'm just looking it up here right now, getting my information.
Okay, so just so everyone knows, the NHL has gone back with the NHLPA, and they have started working on. It doesn't become final right now; it comes next year in place. But there are a couple things, and you heard Pawel talked about it earlier. They will start their new rules on the CBA with the LTIR. It's not this is what's weird. It's not official for this season, but it is starting the playoffs, which does affect the LTIR for the season. Yeah. So you want to go ahead and explain that to folks?
Yeah, so they're bringing in some of the standards in terms of how much you can use in terms of the cap and being over the cap salary. Now, normally people remember historically you could be over the cap by as much as you want. And actually one of the proponents of that opportunity was Ken Holland, who's now the GM of LA Kings. And he talked about what if you have all these injuries and you have a hard time getting players in because of the amount of injuries that exist in the postseason, right? But the NHL has brought in a few things, and I'm trying to find all the exact rules here. Maybe you can help me out here, Evan.
Okay.
3.7 or 3.8 million over the cap. If you bring a player in, there's no double retention, things of that nature that we indicated. And so, teams are going to have to get clever. Capologists have to get clever in terms of how do you bring a guy back? What does that look like? You can't go over. And I believe that one of the stipulations was that you have to play one more game before the end of regular season, in order for you to qualify to play in the postseason. Otherwise, you'd have to wait a game before you can return back in the postseason, if I recall that.
So the rule changes, and it's going to impact them, right? Is with the playoffs, you have to be in compliance with your cap for the players on the ice, though.
Yeah.
So last year, and I don't know the exact numbers, and Jordan, you actually might remember because I think you talked about it. They were like over 10 million. In fact, Edmonton wasn't over the cap, just because they had set out a little bit earlier on some of the numbers with who was just for the games. But actually, Florida was over $10 million over the cap.
With Matthew Tkachuk being injured at his 9.5.
Yeah, because he was brought back in, and all of their top guys were playing.
Yeah, and it indicated that the NHL kind of dropped the case this past week about the Evander Kane situation. So, it seems like nothing else is happening there. But I know, when you have someone like Kucherov wearing a T-shirt that says 11 million over the cap, it doesn't bode well. But teams are going to have to get creative and clever. And I understand, and Vegas indicated that Pietrangelo is out now, so he's going to be out. So hopefully they can make it work. And the cap is going up. I think you indicated that they're going up to 113 million in a couple of years. But really, it's a bit more. Marty Walsh is really cracking down on this and trying to make it fair for all players to make sure that they are cap compliant and the teams are going in with a fair advantage for both situations, right? Whether fans agree or disagree, it is happening. Clearly, they wanted some kind of accountability. This is it. And once the new CBA is ratified for next season, I'm sure they're going to try to have something like this more implemented into the documentation, right? Something that for us here, we'll have to read through the fine print. But
and that's why we work with Puckpedia, guys. So go to Puckpedia, send them a note. They're excellent at trying to get back whenever they can, or they'll send you the links. But go to Puckpedia. You go in there, do your search in their pieces, and their search engines are incredible to work with. So I encourage you. But yeah, so just catch right now. If I sign UFA, it's 7 years I can sign them from. If I'm taking them from another team. The home team gets 8 years. That's gone. Now, if you didn't sign that for this year, you're done. Next year, it's 7 years if you stay at home, and you can only bring a player to your team from outside his home team for 6 years. That's the maximum. So I actually think that the reason this is getting done is because the salary cap increases now so much. Players would prefer that anyway. And the owners, and Jordan alluded to that because of no movement clauses, all this stuff, 8 years can be quite hard to deal with. And there's a lot of changes that actually happen along the way.
And people forget that there used to be longer contracts. If you're an Islanders fan, you're probably still thinking about Rick DiPietro, who signed that 15-year contract. Robert Luongo signed a 12-year. Like these contracts, like the GMs were trigger happy. They were just handing these out like left, right, and center. And so the Islanders are still on the hook for this, even though it's 67.5 million, so 4.5 per season. It's on the hook till 2029. There's going to be a Rick DiPietro fan day for the Islander fans when it comes up come there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, really. And the other thing that I think was included is that if you now sign as a rookie, as a new prospect in the NHL, if you wait until after March next year, it's a high cap hit than it is if you were to sign now, which is one of the reasons why you're not seeing as many players, unlike we talked about with Max Miller, about Michael Misa, signing his entry-level deal, but there's other players that are going to wait because the cap goes up just a little. I think it's like $825, $850 for the cap instead of the base minimum for the entry-level salary. So again, you're going to wait a couple months, of course, if you're going to get paid a little bit extra. So why not?
Max didn't say this in our interview. Guys, we miss Max Miller, hockey beat writer, correspondent with Hockey Digest and San Jose Sharks. Check him out, our first 25 minutes of the show. He didn't mention it, but I was alluding. I actually think if I'm a San Jose Sharks fan, he's signing an elite level contract earlier. He's not worrying about the money. He's not trying to wait that out. He believes he's ready this year. And I said it last year. I think Misa is the only NHL-ready player. I had already said I did not think Porter Martone was. I had heard that on some good sources. And obviously, he's signing in university. Rather take his chance there, which is great for him. And we'll talk to Jamie Baskow in next month, early next month, around some of that stuff, what's going on with all those groups and Jet Luchenko and stuff. But, just saying, I think this is good, because I think he is ready. And I should mention Anton Frundell for Chicago will not be playing in Chicago this year. He is playing with Victor Eklund, who was drafted last year as well, and Ivor Stenberg, who will be on my Revs Top 15 that we'll get into a little bit more next week. And I know those are the things that Jordan loves. So I actually should tell Jordan to start giving me an early one, so he doesn't cheat and wait till he gets a good chance to see how good they are coming into the season. I've always waited for everyone. And I had some people say, well, do you really know them ahead, or are you just playing this out? I had them already. I posted them in August, and now I'm going to give you my list. I actually have them ready. I could play them right now for you, but we're not covering Revs Top 15. So, all right. So we're going to go out with a mic drop with hockey history. So last thought you want before I start my hockey history, dude.
Congrats to Dustin Wolf and the Calgary Flames for signing that big contract of 7 years by 7.25, I think it was, million per year contract. Good for Dustin Wolf for having a career year. It looks like they have their goaltender of the future. He was electric last year, and he made games exciting. If Flames get a little bit more scoring depth, they can make the postseason. I liked it, and I'm glad to be back after a very, according to you, short summer, but a fun summer, a good quiet summer to get back to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. But let's get into hockey history.
Well, hey, folks, I actually have a fantastic story to share with you today in our closer with hockey history. I'm talking about a pivotal moment in hockey history that happened. Now, I had this planned for last week, which was interesting, September 3rd, but it happened in 1966, and it was the story of an 18-year-old kid who didn't just sign his first NHL contract, but in doing so, he actually, you guys ready? He sparked a revolution that changed the business of the game forever. That guy was Bobby Orr. I talked about him last year in some other stories. But this guy, now this is why he's so monumental in hockey. Now, his team was the Bruins, as everyone knows. But to understand the gravity of this moment, you have to understand the context of the NHL in the 1960s. They were the original six, okay? And it was a time when all the owners held all the power. And players were essentially just property for the team who actually owned their rights. They couldn't do anything about it if you want to play pro hockey. So the average NHL salary was around $17,000 back then. And bonuses for rookies, there was none. There was no bonuses. They were practically non-existent, and very few got anything. They got a nice suit. They maybe get, a car. I'm sure it was like, probably the cheapest car that you could get. But there was no player agents, and GMs would just hand a player a contract, and they'd have to sign it. But Bobby Orr changed that. And now you're going to hear the connection here. For years, the Bruins had been grooming him and holding his rights from when he was 14 years old. They had this generational talent. They knew it was looking great as he's coming in his junior career. But he did something different. He hired a lawyer and a young, ambitious guy from Toronto that was named Alan Eagleson. That was because of Bobby Orr. And that's where the story began, because right there, that's when changes started to happen, and he was able to sign for his contract. It was an unprecedented $70,000. Now, I haven't figured that out and how to correlate that, Pawel, but it included a signing bonus with that, and it was a big number. It was the highest salary in all professional hockey at the time. A rookie coming in. And so he wasn't even more established than guys like Gordie Howe, if you think about it. But his impact wasn't just on the ice, it was also off the ice, as I've shared in several stories before. So I think that in hockey history, we forget the connections of how things began and how things turn into what they are today because of some great people. When we talk about franchises like Mario Lemieux, bringing Pittsburgh and keeping them afloat. We think to Wayne Gretzky being bought by Bruce McNall and taken to LA. It really, I think, helped hockey survive and become big in the US. But guys, that's hockey history.
All right, buddy. That's the end of season 7, episode 1. We appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Although we went a little bit over, we like to consider ourselves two guys in overtime because we do like to chat all things hockey. But we are back, baby. Season 7, episode 2, next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I should be home by that point. We're looking forward to it. We've got a great season for you guys. Lots of interviews, plans, a lot of hockey content. A lot of information to share with you, a lot of banter, a lot of mispronunciation of names, and a lot of aha moments, as they say. And we're going to get into all of it. So don't turn off that dial. Make sure you tune in. Go check us out at twoguysinhockeytalk.com. We are on X/ I'd like to call Twitter at Revenev or myself at hockey_2. We're always engaging, chatting, discussing. We keep it respectful, of course. Go follow us on Instagram, on YouTube. We appreciate the followers. Thank you to everyone tuning in tonight. It's been a blast. Evan, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I'm just wanting to say, guys, and again, remember, so next week we're going to catch up on a lot of our content, stories, stuff like that. We purposely are trying to go, maybe we'll go back to back, but we're trying never to go 3 straight weeks with a guest so we can still get the content, have you guys more engaged. So definitely send a note out, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, set on your notifications. And to all those on X, again, you guys ended last season. So we had over 1,100 of you all on at the same time on X alone. And then we had over 500, I think, at the end of the year, or 600. So tonight alone, we've almost hit 600 of you on X alone, coming in and watching live and staying on the show. You guys are the reason that we keep doing this. So again, thanks for everything. Be able to check us out. Go to our site. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. So in 2 weeks, we have Josh Bartatic. He calls the games and does the pre and post and a whole bunch of stuff with the Penn State University, which is the home of Gavin McKinnon and a whole bunch of other players we're going to talk about with Lidmisa. Max Miller was just talking about that earlier too. So it's going to be a great one, guys. Pavel, I don't think you're ever home, but I'll trust you. Say you're home next week because we finished last season and you were out. But what I appreciate is you always jump on no matter where you are, and all our listeners and our viewers feel the same. So, guys, as we say every week, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe. Have a good night.
Cheers.